Hey all, this is a response to the venerable plasma channel where he was having difficulty getting his ionic plasma thruster to get above 2.1 meters a second. And my first thought when I saw that was, okay, he's adding these multiple stages and each of these stages is only doing up to 2 meters a second. And maybe the issue is that the ionic thrusters can only go from 0 up to 2 meters a second in the velocity that they add. And I thought, okay, we could add a diffuser there. And what a diffuser does is it takes that air that goes through the ionic thruster, each one of these is an ionic thruster, and it converts that into pressure. And if we convert it into pressure, it's not a velocity anymore. It's back to 0 or 0.1 meters a second. And then we can just add each of those stages so we get higher pressures and then convert that back to velocity with a nozzle. So here we have our equation for pressure to velocity. It's going to be our pressure for the first portion, and then it's going to be 1/2 rho, which in the case of air is 0.13 kilograms a meter cubed, and velocity squared. This is in meters a second. Pressure is in newtons a meter squared. So this is for before a stage, and then after we're going to get a new pressure plus 1/2 our rho and v squared again. So we're going to start at, let's say, 0 velocity and 0 pressure, which is 0 newtons a meter. And newtons a meter in this case, I'm using gauge pressure because it makes everything easier. So what we're going to have here is 0 newtons a meter, and we're actually going to add 2 meters from this 0 meters a second because that's what the plasma ionic thruster adds. So it's going to be this 0.13, and then we're going to have 2 squared here. That's going to equal our new pressure plus our new velocity. And our velocity is going to be the same rho, and our velocity is going to be 0.1 in this case. So we have the air keep moving through the system. So 0.1 squared. And when you rearrange this, your pressure, you just subtract this to the other side, your pressure comes out to roughly 0.26 newtons a meter. And each one of these stages where we have a ionic thruster and a diffuser is going to add that much pressure because we're adding 2 meters a second every time. So we have 3 stages that have a diffuser, and then this last stage right here goes into a nozzle. So we're going to multiply that by 3, and we're going to get 0.78 newtons a meter, and our last stage is going to give it 2.1 meters a second. And we use the same equation in our nozzle. So our nozzle will take all that pressure and convert it all into velocity. So down here we're going to have our nozzle, and just going to tighten it up like that. And we're going to start with 0.78 plus 1/2, 0.13, and our 2.1 meters a second squared. And that's going to equal our new pressure, which our new pressure out here is going to be 0 because it's ambient again, and our new velocity, which is 1/2 rho and v squared, which is what we're looking for. So when we rearrange this, we're going to have velocity equals the square root of 0.78, and we're going to multiply by 2 to get it over there, and divide by our rho, which is 0.13, and when we do that to this stuff here, it cancels it out, so we just have plus 2.1 squared. And that will give us a final velocity of about 4 meters a second. So you can keep adding these stages and you can get higher pressures and higher velocities. The issue that you run into is that each of these will add some enthalpy to the system and you won't quite reach an optimal velocity. And as you can see, 4 stages, we only got an additional 2 meters a second. So there you go.